But folks, let's go on with Anthony Richardson. He struggled in that game against the Houston Texans last week. Anthony Richardson, if you look at his stats, folks, right now, I can pull up the stats right here. His stats this season, he is completing 44.4% of his passes. His passer rating is 57.2. His QBR on a scale of 0 to 100, 37.4. 4 touchdown passes to only 7 interceptions. He took himself out of the game against the Houston Texans because he was tired. And in that game against the Houston Texans, 32 attempts, only 10 completions. And look, champ, BRF, we've talked about Anthony Richardson a lot. Champ and I, we talked about Caleb Williams or Anthony Richardson. Both of us agreed Caleb Williams. And when you look at Anthony Richardson, man, my God, it is just that bad. And when you look at the completion percentage, it's horrible. It's really horrible. And imagine, and I know Harrison is here, but I must say this. If Bryce Young were in the same situation with the Indianapolis Colts, with Shane Steichen as his head coach, and with good pieces, because Indy's got some good pieces with Michael Pittman, Donis Mitchell, Jonathan Taylor, what would we be saying? And let me see if I could find it right here, guys. If I could find it right here. Let me see. Anthony Richardson, his completion percentage. NFL on CBS. It's a tweet right here. Lowest completion percentage in a season among qualified quarterbacks over the last 20 years. Anthony Richardson's completion percentage at 44.4% is worse than Tim Tebow's in 2011. It's worse than Jamarcus Russell in 2009, which was 48.8%, and 2005 with J.P. Losman with 49.6. 49.6. I'm not joking. I mean, it is bad right here with his completion percentage. It's bad right here. Let me show you right here, right now, folks. 44.4% with Anthony Richardson. Tim Tebow, 46.5%. Jamarcus Russell, 48.8%. J.P. Losman, 49.6%. Champ, you've talked about Anthony Richardson a lot on not just our pod, but also other pods. You weren't that high. You weren't that sold on Anthony Richardson coming out of college. You and I, we've talked about quarterbacks, how they should sit and learn as much as they can in order for them to grow and develop. There's nothing wrong with a quarterback sitting and learning, because look how it panned out for Jordan Love. Look how it panned out for Patrick Mahomes. Not saying any of these guys are going to be Patrick Mahomes, but it wouldn't hurt for them to sit and learn and get as much development as possible, man. So, Champ, I'm going to let you go, man. What are your thoughts about Anthony Richardson?
I'm not going to come on here and give this whole I was right type of scenario. That's not me. I'm just going to be very, very honest. But I forewarned this ahead of time, because BRF, you're going to test this because we're SEC guys.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing when Anthony Richardson and that draft class came out, the whole thing was about him and Will Levis, and neither one of them were that good in the SEC. When you go back and look at Anthony Richardson's first couple of games, his first couple of games his last year, he had 2 touchdowns to 5 interceptions in one game. He didn't even throw for over 100 yards. He was a project quarterback from the beginning. It was a reach for them to go get him. And the thing is, I think one of the worst things that ever happened is when a lot of these project quarterbacks, like Lamar Jackson, like Josh Allen, just to name a few, when they start succeeding, a lot of these NFL teams want to start going and getting these quote-unquote project quarterbacks just to prove to say, oh, I was right. That's the thing. These teams do not understand this. All of these quarterbacks are projects at this point in time. There's not another Peyton Manning coming into the league that's just super ready to just throw out right there. C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels, those guys are anomalies. They're anomalies. Let's just keep it all the way real. But when you have guys that are project quarterbacks like an Anthony Richardson, they have to sit down for at least half a season, if not the full season. Even when you think about the great Dan Marino, he didn't play the whole season his first year. Think about Joe Montana. He didn't play his very first year. He didn't start right off the rip. Ted Bradshaw, he was on and off the bench because Chuck Noll was trying to bring him along. When you think about Steve Young, he sat down. Jordan Love, he sat down. Mahomes, he sat down. Aaron Rodgers sat down. You know, a little bit of everyone sat down. And the thing is, the team that has mastered that like no other team is the Green Bay Packers. Went from Don Majkowski to Brett Favre, because people don't remember this, but Don Majkowski was the passing leader the year before Brett Favre got there. Went from Majkowski, traded a first-round pick in order to get Brett Favre to bring him to Green Bay. Then transitioned that, won a lot of games, went to a lot of NFC championships, got a Super Bowl, then got Aaron Rodgers in the first round, sat him a few years. Then when it got Jordan Love. And teams need to stop thinking about what conventional wisdom is. Look at what the Atlanta Falcons just did. And I'm not gonna lie, Atlanta is my team. I ripped them apart for that Michael Penix Jr. Deal. I ripped them apart. And you know who brought me back to earth? This man sitting right above me right now. BRF. Say, hey man, that's a 2-year deal. Go back and look at it and know what you're talking about. We're preparing for the future, not just to have a bridge quarterback. Kirk Cousins is a bridge quarterback. He's going to be there 2 years, and he's going to be up out of there. And so that's what teams need to really start thinking about. Anthony Richardson was a project quarterback at best. He should have sat down. And when you think about a lot of these quarterbacks, when you think about the Trey Lances of the world, when you think about Will Levis of the world, when you think about Anthony Richardson, even when you think about Lamar Jackson when he first got a league, and even Josh Allen, those guys were project quarterbacks. And they needed some seasoning on them before they got to hell. Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls, and he didn't start right off the hand. And here's my second and my last point. Tom Brady, I know he gets the rap now since he's not playing anymore for being the bitter old man, and everybody just wants to hate on the old football player now. But he was absolutely right. A lot of these offenses is being dumbed down, and now more than ever, they have to get back to bringing them back up to speed. Because the defense, they caught up with the offense. You just can't escape by anymore. The defense, they caught up with the offense. That's why you saw the mid-year last year that we saw for quarterbacks. We saw arguably the most mid-ish year for quarterbacks in the history of the last 25 years when it comes to passing yards and stats. Normally, you at least have 4 to 5 guys are throwing for 40 touchdowns. Not one did it last year. The defense catching up is getting more complicated. Guys like Steve Magnolia is running the 2 deep cover 2 now. These quarterbacks have to learn, because guess what? That deep ball is being taken away a little bit more. So now you got to read the middle of the field. You got to read the flat. You got to read the real routes. You got to read everything. You got to read the joker. You got to read. So that's what happened. They're trying to make a project quarterback into an all-pro, and he's not ready yet. And I understand to a certain extent in the NFL, look, this is their rookie contract. This is the only time you're ever going to have in order to bring in all these weapons to bring in a lot of guys in free agency to kind of build a roster the way you need it to be for the next 2 to 3 years while this guy's on his rookie contract before he asks for $60 million a year. and you find yourself in a deep hole, I understand that. But make sure that these quarterbacks are groomed properly before you throw them out there. And as you already know, PSP, BRF, and Harrison, we've seen a lot of these quarterbacks these days get contracts they didn't deserve. We've seen it way too often. But I mean, this ain't just an Anthony Richardson problem. This is the NFL problem. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks that are really, really mid. That how the blankety blank did you get a contract? Because I haven't seen you prove anything yet. But that's what's happening in the league right now. A lot of these project quarterbacks are being put in positions where they either can't succeed or they don't have the room to succeed because they're project quarterbacks. They're nothing more than that, and they need a few years in order to develop. And until teams start realizing that, we're going to see a lot more first-round busts. We're going to see a lot more Trevor Lawrence's getting a lot of more contracts that they don't deserve. We're going to see a lot more of what's going on now than ever before going into the future. And it's not going to get any better.
Harrison.
Anthony Richardson. You are a definition of a bust. I'm sorry. I had to say this right now. I didn't like Anthony Richardson in the first place. I'm sorry. When you what was the completion percentage? Like 44%?
44.4%.
Yeah, I
You
was
want me to
supposed
show you?
Yeah, I get no. I just want to see. I just want the completions.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Again, first is that a Texans game. I'm gonna just say this right now in life, sports, doesn't matter. You don't say you're tired. When you have one more quarter left, you have one more quarter left. When you have one more set left, you got one more set left. It's like in boxing. You got one more round left, you got one more round left. You're gonna keep on going. But I'm sorry. That's like you're wasting your football career because of that. I'm not gonna lie. Do you think that Bobby Boucher is trying to go onto the field saying, "Hey, I need some water"? No. You gotta keep on going no matter what.
Water boy. You gotta bring the water boy.
I'm sorry. What are you trying to call a timeout saying like, "Yo, I need some water here"?
I don't know if Mama Bobby Boucher would approve.
Yeah, I would not approve. But okay. I'm sorry. Well, back what I was saying. You don't. It's like basically saying you quit. I'm just saying like you don't quit in life. You don't quit in sports. You don't quit in anything. But Anthony Richardson, I didn't like you in the first place. Like what Champ said, you didn't trust Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. Champ was cooking. And also, PSP, you were cooking as well. You were cooking a 5-course meal about Joe Flacco.
I've been saying that. I've been trying
You've been cooking a steak medium rare, with some potatoes on the side, and also some collard greens. Well,
don't forget the gravy.
Yeah, mashed potatoes and gravy. Mashed potatoes and gravy. Man, that tastes so good for Thanksgiving. But Either way, you don't quit in anything in life. That's all I'm gonna say. When you got one more quarter left, you got one more quarter left. But Anthony Richardson, I never liked you in the first place. I don't know why if you're an Anthony AR-15 hype, that thing is gone. That's gone. Out the window, like out of here. But that's all I'm going to say. If you want to trade Bryce Young to Indianapolis, go. Please, take him. We'll do anything to get Bryce Young to Indianapolis. And he will I'm pretty sure the Colts will definitely go 10-7 with BY9 or 9-8 or 8 wins.
That's a mouthful.
I know it's a mouthful, but at the same time, I feel like Bryce Young wants to be a winner. We seen in that man's eyes. At least he keeps on a really positive like attitude. But Anthony Richardson saying I'm tired. that's just honestly that's pathetic personally. But that's all I'm gonna say. Anthony Richardson, you're a bust.
BRF.
His situation for me is like it's hard to gauge because it's crazy, like the amount of regression that he's shown this year. Because even in the games he played last year, he showed a lot of promise. And I know a lot of the hype this year was kind of based off of the games he played last year. But I mean, it's not like he's short of weapons in Indianapolis. I mean, you got Jonathan Taylor behind you. You got Michael Pittman Jr. You got Josh Downs. You got Alec Pierce. You drafted A.D. Mitchell. I mean, it's not like you don't have talent around you in Indianapolis to just be able to give yourself, put yourself in a situation where it's like, just let me put the ball in my playmakers' hands and I'm gonna let them do their thing. And then in your own right, you're one of the best athletes in the league. It's a confusing situation to me. I heard it on one of the pods. I don't think it's completely healthy either. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you're the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. You have no business tapping out. You got no business tapping out. I don't care if it's a play, 2 plays. I don't care. You got no business tapping out. You must not be conditioned like you need to be if you tapping out. You must, and you being a grown man, you getting paid millions and millions of dollars. It's your job to condition yourself to the fullest, to the highest order, to be ready for the NFL season. I mean, you were injured, you were out, you weren't playing that much, so you had plenty of time. What you been doing? What's going on? What you been doing?
By the way, BRF, Harrison and Champ, I can't believe y'all didn't mention this. Remember how Anthony Richardson said the NFL is a lot easier than college?
Yeah, you want to throw that thing out the window there.
Yeah,
Buddy.
I mean, I tried to forget that, but like I said, him coming out of Florida, he wasn't that good. Like I said, he was a project quarterback. He was not doing that good. And the thing is, NFL, you better stop reaching for these quarterbacks in the first round just to say you took one in the first round. Stop it. If you know these guys are projects, you need to draft them where they stand. You guys are out here, you owners are out here overpaying quarterbacks when they haven't won playoff games. You're overpaying quarterbacks when they have charges on them and haven't played in 2 years. You're out here doing all types of nonsense, and you're wondering why the Kansas City Chiefs are leaving you in the dirt. Because of that. You're drafting project quarterbacks in the first round. Randall Cunningham didn't even get drafted in the first round. And he was considered a project quarterback. Draft and pay these guys like you're supposed to. I understand that. Look, I get it. Quarterback face with the franchise. Don't nobody get off the doggone bus and ask who the left tackle is. I know because I played left tackle. They don't ask who you is.
Yeah.
When they see the left tackle, they say, big man, get out of the way. I'm trying to see the quarterback. That's who everybody asks for. That's who the mayor asked for. That's who the cheerleaders asked for. That's who the guys at the country club asked for. We understand that. But at the same time, put it in perspective. If you have guys that are project quarterbacks, draft them accordingly and develop them accordingly. It makes no sense to me.
Any final words before we move on to any other football subject? BRF.
Yeah, the Indianapolis Colts made the right move going to Joe Flacco. I mean, it's the right move. I mean, I understand Anthony Richardson is your guy. You want to develop into being that guy, but at the end of the day, if you're looking at Shane Steichen as the head coach, what you being paid to do at the end of the day, my brother, you getting paid to win football games. That is ultimately your job. It's go out there and try to win football games. And Joe Flacco gives the Indianapolis Colts the best chance to win football games because it's not like they're like out of the hunt for a playoff spot. I mean, they can contend for a playoff spot. the AFC isn't exactly, as deep as the NFC right now. I mean, a team like the Indianapolis Colts can sneak in and make the playoffs. So it's not like they're out of it. And hell, the way the Houston Texans are playing right now, they can get back into the AFC South race with the way the Houston Texans are looking right now. And we thought Houston was going to run away with this division, and they're not. It showed last night against the Jets with Houston. Their offensive line is in shambles. I mean,
Players
don't get me wrong, Aaron Rodgers didn't blow the doors off with his performance, but I mean, he did enough to win that game. And Garrett Wilson, go and give that man a second contract, because if it wasn't for him, the Jets don't win that game last night. But
oh man,
I'm gonna just say this, Joe. Now I'm telling you, it wouldn't shock me. Oh, you showing that? Oh, that's the catch of the year.
Beauty,
That
absolute
is,
beauty.
That's the catch of the year. That is easily the catch of the year.
Hey BRF, can I show this question if you guys don't mind? So
Go ahead.
If you have to pick, which one is better, the OBJ catch in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, 2014, or that catch, the Garrett Wilson catch?
Still taking OBJ.
Still taking OBJ, PSP?
I would still take OBJ. That was still a hell of a catch, though, by Garrett Wilson. But the way he did it behind his back, though, just like that, stretching out the arm just like that, that was still incredible. And plus, with 3 fingers. He caught it with 3 fingers.
That's the most underrated part of the catch. He caught it with 3 fingers. That's the most underrated. For me, that's the most underrated, not talked enough about part of the OBJ catch. 3 fingers. That wasn't a full-handed catch.
Right.
So yeah, I'm definitely still taking the OBJ catch. But I'm gonna end it with this though, real quick. Yeah, Joe, it just would not shock me if the Indianapolis Colts messed around and made a little run here, because they got Joe Flacco back at the quarterback position. He understands, as a pro, as a veteran, to get his playmakers the ball. He understands everything there is as far as the quarterback position. Let Anthony Richardson sit. He needs to develop. He needs to watch Joe Flacco. He needs to watch how to prepare, watch how to run the offense as far as schemes, about understanding how to identify the Mike, the Sam, the weak side linebacker. He's got to learn. He's got a lot to learn, and he's still got a lot to develop. I'm not gonna close the door completely on Anthony Richardson, because he's still uber athletic and he still has an uber ceiling. But after this, he's got one more shot. When he takes the reins back, he's got one more shot. And if he don't nail it, Harrison's calling him a bust. If he don't nail it the next time he's a starting quarterback, there's nothing else to say.
No, you
got to learn. He's got to learn. He's got to learn. Mm-hmm.
No, you guys right on that, because imagine if this were Bryce Young, what would we be saying? So Anthony Richardson, yeah, because he has tremendous upside and athleticism, yet he has much more potential, and he's in better circumstances. And the Indianapolis Colts still have a chance to win the division, because, to your point, BRF, you look at the Houston Texans right now. Stephon Diggs is out for the rest of the season with a torn ACL. Nico Collins is on IR. And then on top of that, it's Dalton Schultz and Tank Dell. And now Will Anderson Jr. also got injured as well. So Houston has been struggling with injuries. Now, I still believe they still have the best quarterback in that division in CJ Stroud, but still, it's not going to be easy for them to win the division again.
Especially the way that offensive line looked last night for Houston too, boy. They looked awful last night.
They did. And I've said it before, man. Joe Flacco gives them the best chance to win. Joe Flacco is the veteran quarterback. Say what you want to. I've said this on Trent's pod, even though he thought I was capping and lying. I said Flacco fine like wine. Say what you want about Joe Flacco. He still somehow finds a way to get it done. And for him to be 39 years old and to play this well. And Shane Steichen is a good enough head coach. We saw the job that he did with Gardner Minshew last year. They were almost that close to winning the division. And he's doing it with Joe Flacco. And the fact that they're able to go this far without Anthony Richardson, considering the talent, the potential, and the hype he had, if that is not an indictment, then what is? Am I wrong, champ?
No, you're not. Like I said, a lot of these quarterbacks come into the league with a lot of all-white hype. And it should not be that way. My thing is, look, I understand that a lot of these you have to have a quarterback in the NFL, or else you're 88 not the gate. We understand that. But stop reaching. That's all I'm saying. You're reaching in order to draft him. Anthony Richardson had no business going number 4 overall. Like I said, he wasn't that good in the SEC. He was a project quarterback.
Yeah.
Same thing with Trey Lance. He had no business going that high. Stop trying to reach for these quarterbacks just for the sake of doing it. And the thing is this. Trey Lance rarely played. Anthony Richardson rarely played. What did you think was going to happen? You haven't taken a lot of time to develop. And if you really want me to look at it, both are in win now situations.
Yep.
That's how come they're being benched. The Colts have the potential, even without him at this point, with Joe Flacco at him to go to the playoffs. With the 49ers, they were scheduled to go to the Super Bowl with all those weapons that they had. So they both was in kind of the same situation. Two very, very developmental quarterbacks that really couldn't hack it.
Jeff, I got to bring this up. Do you think Anthony Richardson, forgive me, is it with these executives when they see guys like an Anthony Richardson, is it kind of like how you're like in high school and college where you look at the pretty girl that you want to try to impress, but then you end up having the one with all the problems?
Well, I won't say necessarily that. The thing is this. You ever seen that what's that movie? Not Another Teen movie.
Yes.
Remember when this dude was trying to get one of the more unattractive girls and turn them into a princess?
Yes.
That's what they're doing with some of these quarterbacks.
Oh, that's you ain't even got to use that. You ain't even got to use that. You can use the real version of that. That she's all that.
Yeah. She's all that. But yeah, that's what they're doing. They're trying to take one of these projects and really build them up just to say, oh yeah, I was right. And the thing is, you got to think about the circumstances which a lot of these project quarterbacks went into. When you think about Joe Montana, he had Bill Walsh. You think about Steve Young, he was backing up arguably the greatest quarterback of all time in Joe Montana. Joe Montana's my GOAT. I'm just being real. When you think about Randall Cunningham, he was sitting behind a Pro Bowl quarterback who had just gone to a Super Bowl a couple of years earlier in Warren Jaworski.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about even Lamar Jackson, 2-time league MVP, he was behind a Super Bowl winning quarterback in Joe Flacco. Yes. These guys were developed. They wasn't just stuck out there and say, hey, go out there and win us some games. Like I said, y'all are trying to do the same thing like on She's All That. Y'all trying to get a project so y'all can say, okay, we was right about this. Stop looking at there's a reason why when you was in high school and when you was in college, they told you to keep your eyes on your own paper. Because you could be looking at somebody else's answers and they can be darn well marking C the whole time, and the whole time they have you failing because you too busy paying attention to what's on their test. Keep your eyes on your own paper and keep your eyes on the prize. These guys were project quarterbacks. Nothing more. Trey Lance, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, just to name a few of a lot of these quarterbacks who have gotten benched. They were project quarterbacks. And I mean, Justin Fields included. Project quarterbacks. So you have to take into consideration what they really are. Are they really ready for you to ship them out on that field and say, hey, go win us some games? If they're not, keep them on the bench. Look what Aaron Rodgers stayed on Green Bay's bench for 3 years.
Behind Brett Favre.
Exactly. He stayed on that bench.
And Jordan Love sat for 3 years behind Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly. Michael Penix about to get ready to sit for about 3 years as well. I mean, Joe Montana, he sat for almost a year and a half behind Steve DeBerg.
Patrick Mahomes sat for a year behind Alex Smith.
Exactly. So it's not going to hurt these young men to sit. And like I said, when you see Patrick Mahomes, hey, he had a quick release and everything, but guess what? His team was 7-5 down there in Texas Tech. 7-5. So guess what? Stop trying to get these project quarterbacks and trying to build them up like they're something that they're not. Hey, we saw Patrick Mahomes throw 400 yards, damn near 700 yards in a game. We saw that. We did not see Anthony Richardson or Will Levis do that in any game. Matter of fact, like I said, we saw a game with Anthony Richardson where he barely threw 100 yards in the SEC. Now, if you can't do it in the SEC, you can't do it nowhere.
I feel like you should have stayed another year in college, personally. But it's the generational talent. But guess what? Here you are now. You're